Welcome to another episode of Being Real with your favorite host, me. Who am I? Yeah, let me name off all my material success and which college I went to and why, and what I currently study now. And now I have $1 million, and I'm here to teach you how I taught other people how to build a business. And those people are now teaching other people how to build a business, starting their business to teach another person how to do a business. And we're all just doing business, 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 business. My business is really your business, and your business is my business and just business. Isn't that what this whole YouTube thing feels like these days, dude? Take my course. I make $1 million a year. I make $1 million a month. 100,000. Look, I want to get real with you. I want to get real. Here's the deal. I want to get into a topic today that actually is genuinely really close to me, which is how I got saved. Now, I didn't get saved by Jesus. I got saved by computers. Computers saved my life. And I think that's been the case for a lot of people, actually. I mean, a lot of people, we're all in this whole like computerized, technological, digital realm of consciousness, which we now call Earth in many ways. But more realistically, we have all these computers and technology and hardware. We're constantly interacting with these things. I mean, there's computers in streetlights, there's computers in everything that you look at, there's a computer. And there's all this talk that technology is going to ruin the world. It's going to ruin us. We're all going to die. And AI is going to come and get us. And you know what? I don't really think so. Maybe. But even then, we probably still will be fine. You know? It's not like the machines are all of a sudden just going to start walking and talking and interacting with our daily lives, and we're just gonna, oh, it just randomly took over and we didn't even know anything about it. It just magically happened right away. Like everything in this world, things require a body to do anything substantial. So, that being said, how did computers save my life? Well, I'll tell you this, man. I didn't really play a whole lot of video games growing up. Maybe a few different times, like Skate 1 and Skate 2. That was like probably it. And some computer games here and there. But ever since I've been, about 12, 13, I started, I guess, getting onto computers as a means of how can I build and design and create things. I remember like going on my little shitty Windows Dell desktop, like square monitor computer, and going on Microsoft Paint and just trying to make like logos and designs and emailing random people say, hey, I made your logo better, or studying little things about HTML and CSS and learn how to make shitty websites and selling skateboards and things on it as well. Did that when I was 14 or 15. I've really been thinking, okay, like, hmm, computers have really been a part of my life. And I probably understand them a lot more than the average person. And not in the sense of like some computer science way. I feel like I understand what computers are trying to teach me about myself and consciousness. And I'll get to that bit in a second, I suppose. But it's kind of amazing that we even have these things at all. I'm constantly like scrolling through my phone or on my iPad over here, and I'm like looking at trying to like identify what is a pixel and how do they determine what one pixel is in relation to all pixels, and then change all the vectors and shaders for how that pixel should basically display that thing as it's moving. You know what I'm saying? You start to get into this kind of stuff where computers are literally magic. Computers are magical. You can just tap buttons and bloop, and it does affect things out there in the real world. It's hitting some server, and that's saying a request to then go do another thing to then return back to you. And we're constantly interacting with these different ley lines of, it seems like, energy at this point. So why I'm kind of bringing this all up is when I was growing up, it was a very hard thing for me to think properly. I don't know what exactly it was, but I always had mental blocks when it came to, I guess, thinking or reading or doing math or whatever. It almost seemed like I always would hit like a limitation or a block within myself where I wouldn't really be able to develop past the required step of what I need to advance. Maybe that was a self-limiting belief. I'm not sure. It was something. Now, with that being said, when I started learning coding and programming and how do computers work and stringing together logic, oh man, it was something entirely different. It was something way different because it taught me about how to think properly. It taught me what does it mean to declare something and then use it in a different place, but then have that change at this level to then send out to another thing. And then you use that to then put it over here and then circle back. It taught me how to think properly. And that's something that kind of goes underrated in the technology space. Feel like it's all about, go into tech so you can get a good job and, make a bunch of money doing X, Y, Z or whatever. And yeah, maybe that's fine or whatever. But for me, when I started to learn how to code and design stuff on computers and especially, do 3D animations and really work heavily in 3D and also learn how to code in 3D as well, it taught me also how to think properly. It taught me how to think in 3D in a way. The more I've learned technologies, various technologies, whether it's a new computer programming language or it's a new actual software, it's a new way to render something in React or in Next.js or doing a little bit of Python here or there or whatever it is, the more I'm able to understand technology and how it's working, man, it seems like I'm able to see that all of reality is somewhat of a technology. Our reality is a technology. Our human body system is technology. Our mind is a technology. The vast canvas and screen of our reality is a type of technology. And so, what is a technology when you think about it? You see, in computers, a technology is can be like a software application. A lot of what these technologies they do is completely invisible. It's all stuff that's in the hardware. It's words syntactically that have been rearranged into a file, and there are files within files within files in a folder structure, which then send requests to databases to then send it back to another thing, which processes it here or there, and then you're consuming that here, and it's doing all this stuff, and it's invisible. It's like it's fugazi in a way. It doesn't really exist. It exists in the sense that it's there on the computer and you can log on and see it, but it doesn't exist in the sense that it's physical. The only thing that's physical about it is the licensing and probably written down on paper, the agreement that you have with the company to have the service. So this is what makes software a really interesting thing right now because you're building things in this little screen of reality, this little computer, and it stays there, it persists there. It's able to prolong there until you delete it. And with our memories and everything that goes on with our own reality, man, it's not really that way at all. It seems like you'll have a fleeting thought that'll just come in. It'll be super impactful, meaningful for you. It'll help you change something, some aspect about yourself or your reality or your whole configuration of your mind and how your energy is all working. And then bloop, it's just gone and you can't really capture the form. And I think when I started to really learn coding and programming, I've been doing it for a while now, it almost helped me better be able to capture the form of an idea and create a fixed structure for it, put it into my mind, and put it into a place and a position for me then to go back and access. See, I remember that was the hardest thing for me when I was learning how to code. How the heck does this work? And just have a hard time figuring out, in essence, real basic things about this stuff. Like how do you center a div? That's like it's kind of a running meme in these circles, right? And at first, coding, it was very hard. It's very difficult for me to center around these ideas because it wasn't immediately obvious what I was doing. And I think that's what happens when you're doing back-end development as well, is you're doing stuff that's invisible. And so that's why I naturally gravitated to front-end development because on front end, you can make a div, you can center the div within another div, put a border around it, different color, put text inside, a button, have that button do something, change a page or add information to it. You can do all this stuff that you can actually see. And for me, I've always needed to see things. I need to need to visually see what I'm working on. And I actually think that it's been kind of a disability for me. The more I look at that, I think it's been a disability for me. It goes back to my earlier years when I was younger and I really needed each idea to have a body so I could see the bodies that are interacting together for me to have faith or trust in what I'm seeing or something. But with programming, when I really started learning how to code, it's as if I was able to create a mental body for the pattern of what is happening. And I was able to persist those objects in my mind in several different locations and keep on referring back to them. So, like I said before, in my previous beginnings of when I was starting to learn how to code, I could only focus on one file at a time and then a CSS file side by side. And oh man, this is just hard enough for me. But just this morning, I was toggling between two different repositories with four different quadrant windows open on each, scrolling through each one, changing one thing here, changing it here, and seeing the whole process of how everything's working out. And it kind of makes me think there has to be some type of residual effect that has happened and occurred within me that where this experience I now have of this fluidity where I can transfer between different ideas and things are often very like deeply interlinked and related that has now transferred over to an effect where it's helping me in some other aspect of my life. And I think it has. It definitely has. When I really ponder it, programming and coding has saved my life. It has. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It just really has. It's the number one coding and programming and skateboarding are the two things which I would say kept me going on the right path. Because if I didn't have these things, I think I'd be crazy. Now, I think everyone should learn how to code. You should. And I get it. It's kind of hard in this time to learn how to code or want to learn. Maybe it's not hard to learn, but it's hard to want to learn. Because with AI, you can just go on ChatGPT, hey, give me this new file for XYZ, do this thing for me, and it'll just spit out the code. And you can say to yourself, well, what's the point of learning how to code if the AI is just going to be able to do it for me, all of it, in the next 2 or 3 years, like completely? And, maybe it will. But I think that you have to approach this whole thing from the instance that it's not always about the end goal with a lot of what you're doing. You have to do things that will help you get to where you need to go. And if you need to learn how to think better, you need to engage in activities that are going to make you think. If you need to get more physically fit or active, then you need to do things which are going to do that. And in this whole world, this life that we're kind of sold on social media and the internet, it's all about everyone displaying their end points. Here's this end point which I've now reached, and I'm displaying myself at my highest high. And so look at me, that kind of thing, right? And with that, it makes it hard to want to pursue anything because when you start to do it, you don't really match up to that level of glamour that everyone else displays that they've now reached. And it's the same thing with code and programming. I mean, I remember I'd be talking with people, attending Zoom meetings or this or that, Discord groups with people that were really good at coding. And I was just learning HTML and CSS. Like, how the heck does this work? And I'd feel like completely lost and I'd feel like I suck. And like how they're just like pulling stuff, they're typing stuff in and just it randomly works somehow and they just make shit up. And then like, how did you even know this method exists within this fringe library that I've never even heard about, but now you know how to use it with this or that, and it takes in these parameters and you get the thing working now. It's like, how would I ever even know to do that? And now I understand. I understand how you do that. I understand that there's a process and a methodology to getting what you want in life and in reality. There's a step-by-step process. You have to identify where you are and where you want to go. See, it never really made sense to me. I mean, as smart as I am, it never really made sense to me. So I think that my approach and philosophy to life, in a sense, to kind of wrap this up, is you have to develop yourself out of your inefficiencies that you have naturally. We all came into this reality with a set of inefficiencies. I had several. Um, Probably just as much as the average person. I definitely had them, but they were so blind to me that I almost like didn't even know I had them, which was a whole other inefficiency as well. In your whole life, you have to develop this ability of honesty with yourself, where you recognize what you do have, what you don't have. And this culture, it wants to make you, in a way, just develop what you are only good at, and all the stuff that you're bad at, just like, outsource, business, this kind of stuff. I think that's the wrong approach. You see, I always try to develop things I'm not good at, because things I'm good at it now. Okay, I understand design systems. I understand how to build a website. I understand all this kind of stuff now. I could spend time getting better at it, or I could spend time getting better at the things I suck at. And the thing is, when you get better at the things that you suck at too, it will automatically level up the things that you're already good at, because the things that you're probably already good at are probably being drawn down by the things that you suck at, even if they're not even related. So, my whole approach and philosophy here in life and designing your reality is to, in essence, get better at everything that you can get better at. Everything. Just everything. Everything where you can input yourself into a situation to display your level of progress. Just get better at it. Get better at all of it simultaneously. And if you do that, I think you'll be so preoccupied with important and meaningful things that, it's almost like a sense of what is my spiritual purpose will basically go away. I think so. Your spiritual purpose, where do I exist and what do I need to do for this eternal mission of my soul, and where do I really need to go after this lifetime, and why am I like this way? I think all that goes away as soon as you upgrade your character. You have to upgrade your character. You have to get better at everything that you want to get better at. And the things that you don't want to get better at, still just get better at that too. Because life is all about learning. And this world, it wants to, in a way, it wants to make it all this material. It wants to make it business, monetize, do one thing and one thing only, and just niche down, start a business. And I'd say that where we're going here in this world, you have to learn to not necessarily care about those things and just care about the character that you're developing into. Especially if you're a young person, just care about the character you're developing into. You can put me in nearly any situation, and I will find a way to perform and get extremely good at whatever I need to get at for the thing that I'm doing. And it will become very apparent that that's my goal or mission to everyone else that can see that I'm in that environment. It's who I am. Wherever you put me, I have a reputation. If people know me, that I will work. And they don't even know why. They don't even know what motivates me or drives me or what. But I'm reliable and I will work. You have to develop that as a young person. Not money, not trying to do all this extra crazy stuff. Just work. And when you work, you'll find that you love it, because the work becomes about developing yourself. It's not about this extra stuff like I need to work for a certain dollar amount so I can get this thing. Once I got this thing, then I can do another thing with the thing that I got. It's not about that. Develop your character. That's why you're here in this reality. You're here to upgrade your character. And when you do that, I think you'll find what you're really looking for, and all this sense of a spiritual, where's my ultimate destiny stuff. I think it goes away. When I reflect back on my journey, I think that's what it was. I was just, I didn't have anything better to do but ponder the nature of my existence and where am I located in this ultimate space-time continuum dimension, and what's next for me and why. All of it is kind of fear-based in a way. So develop yourself. Learn coding, learn music, learn skateboarding. Um, Go out there, go for a run. Go out there in the real world and do real world things. And whatever it is you want to do, type it down below. Hey, I'm going to start doing this now. All right, do it. Just do it. You have to develop your character. You have to develop yourself. And when you do, I think that you'll find that It really will be the answer to your problem. Your problems will disintegrate because by having a problem, having a need to solve yourself or solve your reality, in essence, still is to entertain that that gap or hole exists within you. And you can, in a way, work yourself out of having the problem. And it just goes away through that way. I mean, so much of our spiritual stuff that we go through, I think, is a direct result of us thinking that we need to somehow still do a spiritual thing in order to attain a spiritual effect of improvement. So I'm experiencing this spiritual problem, so I need to do something spiritual to resolve the spiritual problem. For me, for instance, what I needed when I was a bit younger and kind of crazy and just kind of starting out in the world, what I needed was a little bit more money, an actual shelter around myself so I wasn't homeless, and food on a consistent schedule. And once I got all three of these things, 95% of my spiritual problems went away. So, in a way, spiritual problems are just kind of goofy. They're by displaying yourself. I have a spiritual problem. I have to develop this thing about me, or my soul is in some eternal realm that it can't quite figure out yet, and I'm trapped. You're not. You're just focused on the wrong things. And you're only accelerating the potential of your mind to create the reality of you being what you say you are being, because that's part of consciousness as well, is to exemplify the patterns that we entertain. So learn something. And I hope you learned something today with this. But that's the message today is go out there and learn something. Go out there and do something. And, you know, whatever it is, make sure you try to get good at it.